Climb into the cockpit with pilot and Link Square's Chief Legal Officer, Tim Perilla, as he invites legal leaders aboard to share advice that will help you navigate even the most turbulent times of in-house counsel work. We'll cover a range of topics from data privacy to legal team structure to public company transactions and beyond. You don't want to miss this series. Fasten your seatbelt and prepare for takeoff. You're listening to Cockpit Counsel.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Cockpit Counsel. My name is Tim. I'm the Chief Legal Officer at Link Squares, and as always, we have our producer, Alyssa Verzino. If you like the podcast, give us a like, subscribe, follow on the socials, and let's get into it. So today, our guest is Omar Sweiss. Omar is the CEO of JusticeBid. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your career path and how you ended up at JusticeBid.
All right. Well, if I had to start telling you my story, I'd probably take it back to when I was in 8th grade.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. I've had a passion for entrepreneurship, and I've always point back to that point of my life of where it got ignited. And what happened was in 8th grade, we were invited to go to Great America for our field trip for the end of the year program, graduating. Mm-hmm. Now, I am a big fan of the ground. I know this is Cockpit Counsel.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of being in the air, but
okay.
Great America is all about roller coasters, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not a big fan of roller coasters, but I'm a big fan of basketball. Okay. So when we got there, I wanted to go have a good time with my friends. I remember to this day, my father was working long hours. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, where if you know anything about Chicago, you know that it's an underrepresented and marginalized side of town.
Yep.
And for me, I knew how hard my father had to work every single day just to keep the lights on and keep the family, doing what we have to do.
Yep.
And I remember that he had worked long hours, and I stayed up for him. When he came home that night before I went to Great America, he handed me $100 bill. Yeah. And I remember this moment till like this day. It was like my heart broke when I knew how hard he had to work for that money.
Yeah.
And give it to me, go having a good time, while he had to go back and work and make more money to be able to have the family survive. Nevertheless, he said, you got to go have a good time. So I went the next day. All my friends were heading up the roller coasters, and I was like, all right, that's not my thing, right? I'm not going to go on the roller coasters. But I did see the basketball in that, and I'm a strong basketball player. I play street ball on the south side of Chicago, been doing it my entire life. Also contributed to some injuries of mine.
Sure.
But nevertheless, when I saw the basketball, I'm like, that's where I'm going to go. So I hung out with my friends. We waited in line. They went on the roller coasters. I was like, let's go play some basketball now.
Yeah.
Went to go play some basketball, and I just kept winning basketballs as the prizes. And all of my friends said, we want to do the same thing, right? But they can't ball like me.
Right.
So they would spend all their money trying to win the basketballs, but they would never win, right?
Yeah.
I think I had won about 19 or 20 basketballs.
Oh my gosh.
So I was able, and I spent some money on that, spent some money on the food, but on the bus ride home, that was when like the light bulb went off. I had something they all wanted that they couldn't get. Right, so I said to myself,
just imagine you getting on a bus with 19 basketballs.
I had a lot of help with some of my friends, right, Tim? So we get on the bus, and I'm like, all right, guys, I got basketballs for sale.
Yeah.
I started selling the balls for about $20 a piece. Right?
Nice.
So I probably sold them for about, altogether, probably had a couple $100 back in my pocket.
Yeah.
I get back home, and I stayed up late at night till my father got back.
Yeah.
And when he got back, I put $100 right back in his hand.
Nice.
I said, Dad, this $100 is back for you. I said, I know how hard you worked for it. He's like, well, wait, didn't you go and have a good time? I said, I had a blast. I hung out with my friends. I ate some food. And guess what? I made some money too. And it was that moment in time that I told myself, you know what? Entrepreneurship is for me. But more than just entrepreneurship, it's the ability to use entrepreneurship to advance change, impact. And that's what my life has been all about, right? How can I give back to my community where I grew up, which is, again, a tough side of town in Chicago, giving us more opportunities, more resources. And that's why basically I went, to get my business degree in business, and I started to build businesses in our community.
Yeah.
And Tim, I created jobs. I worked with a local alderman, alderwoman. I'm doing community-based initiatives.
Nice.
But over the course of doing that for 6 years, it was guys like you, Tim, attorneys, right, that were taking all my money. And I was like, you know what? I could probably do this on my own. So 6 years into building the businesses, I actually enrolled in law school full-time at night.
Yeah.
While I was working full-time the daytime, and I got my law degree in 3 years.
Yep.
And it was during that time in law school when I just saw this opportunity. I'm like, wait a minute, why is the industry so bad when it comes to diversity?
Yeah.
And well, I'm sure we'll get into it more and talk more about that in a moment. But that's kind of like what my life has been all about to this day, is like, how can I use entrepreneurship and my sense of how to build businesses to make an impact and tying the two together?
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about, obviously being able to promote underrepresented communities in a profession that, is quite frankly a whole bunch of white dudes, is an awesome and incredible mission. So what gave you the idea for Justice Bid? I know, like, obviously conceptually, but
Sure.
as you go, obviously you have your entrepreneurial background. You go to business school, you go to law school, and come out, and you're like, okay, how do I actually reduce what is a mission-driven, path for you into an actual product?
Yeah. So it was during the time in law school when I saw what the issues we're having at the community level that I was solving by building businesses and doing community-based work. I saw that legal had very similar challenges, but in a different way, much to what you spoke to a moment ago. And the more I studied the issue, the more that I had noticed that of all the professional services, legal was the worst. And I remember that when I got licensed in the state of Illinois with my law license, I lifted up my hand, I took that oath to protect the Constitution.
Of course.
Right? And part of that is all about liberty, fairness, and justice for all.
Yeah.
But when you think about, and equity, obviously, but when you think about the practice of law, the field of law, it was anything but just and equitable and fair.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, why is that the case? It's the biggest irony there is. We as the lawyers write the laws and we take the oath to make sure that it's all about equity and justice and fairness, but it's furthest from that. So I said to myself, all right, let me study this issue some more. Where is this coming from? Why are we not seeing progress over so many years? And the more I studied the issue, the more I realized that the folks that control and have the most power over this were really the corporate law departments when I started this business. And they had all the leverage, right? Law firms were very much reactive to what they were talking about. And really the law departments is where it needed to start. And that's when I said to myself, technology.
Yeah.
Technology has to be the solution, and data is going to be incorporated into technology. And that's where the birth of the idea for Justice Bid really came about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So talk a little bit more about the platform. I know obviously you and I have talked a lot about it over the past 18 months or so.
Sure.
But yeah, would love just for everyone who's listening to know more about what exactly y'all are doing.
Well, when I studied the issue, the path that I felt would help change and make an impact was the decision-making process of when you hire outside counsel. So you have a corporate law department. I work in-house, for example, and I'm ready to make a decision on which outside law firm I want to hire. The way it typically happened was, all right, buddy, I'm calling you. I'm giving you the business.
Right.
Now, how do I know my buddy? We went to law school together. We used to work together. Right. And that kind of created this vicious cycle that really didn't help, diversify more of the offering, right?
Right.
So I said to myself, we need to approach decision-making when it comes to outside counsel, much like procurement approaches the selection of vendors, right? Let's look at data. Let's look at their expertise. Let's look at their strategies. Let's look at their teams, their experiences, their credentials, and guess what? The diversity of the teams.
Exactly.
So we launched our RFP auction technology, helping corporate law departments source their matters, typically like matters over a specific threshold amount. But what I started to see, and this is really where it gets interesting, was that when you ask the questions around diversity and the construct of the RFP, there was a lot of diversity being pitched.
Right.
And Tim, I'm gonna let you take a guess here what happens. Once you were awarded the business, in some cases, what happened with some of the firms?
They just completely staffed non-diverse people on your matter.
Either one of three things happened. One, exactly what you said. They had no diverse, those diverse attorneys pitched, disappeared. Start looking for them. Where'd they go? They were no longer there, right? Two, they were there, but they were giving that lower level, non-meaningful type work, which really isn't going to help you advance your career to become a partner and a leader in the firm. Or three, they were actually there and doing some of that work, but that was really the, no pun intended, the minority of the situation of the time.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like as law firms have taken on the initiative to increase their diversity, like you get almost like people who are there more as salespeople for the firm than actually substantively bringing like that benefit of a truly diverse perspective to the matter at hand.
Yeah, without question. And I think, we've seen law firms start to change now as a result, right?
Yeah.
They're hiring diversity professionals and they're becoming proactive on their own. But for me, I also built out a diversity analytics solution.
Yep.
And to me, the importance of having that was, fine, let whatever happens in the pitch of the RFP happen. But what we're going to do is to actually have something that holds firms accountable. We want to understand the diversity of the firms at large, but also the diversity in how they're staffing the client's matters, whether they go through the RFP process or not. And that really has been another, a bolt to help really advance the change that we're pushing for in the industry, because that also gives you the data you need to see. We want to say we want to get better, but if you're not looking at the data,
how do you know you're going to get better?
You won't. And you know this far too well, right? You guys are into the data business as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh yeah, we're definitely getting better. It's all like anecdotal. Right. But when you actually layer in the data into it, it's just you can actually see how well you're doing, how well your firms are doing.
Yeah. The saying that says, look, you can't make progress without measuring the data is absolutely true. But there was challenges in measuring the data, challenges in getting the data. And these are a lot of the challenges we want to solve for, and we did. And taking that along with the sourcing technology really helps bolster a corporate law department's program to advance change. But we also wanted to help the law firms. Like we offer them free services in our technology, like where they can benchmark their data against other law firms. We let them see their own data and see the progress of their data over time. Why? Because we want to empower them to get better as well too. Especially now that they're seeing that they have diversity professionals, they're focused on data as well too, and they're making some meaningful strides.
That's good. And so when you guys have like specific firms that you're working with, or is largely what you're doing through your corporate clients?
Great question. So before I started working with the firms without the use of my clients' efforts and leveraging, if you will, I invited all AmLaw 200 firms. And I know you're going to take a good guess here. You'll probably get it right. But how many of the AmLaw 200 firms do you think actually responded and said, yes, we want to be part of this?
Probably less than 1%.
Zero.
Yeah.
Not one. Then we went to one of our first clients and said, listen, you are having problems around getting this data. You need this data. Help us invite your firms on board and help us get this information from, have them participate. They did that. We started to see the change. And that was in our early days. We're now up to over 400 plus firms in our platform on the diversity side working with us. Self-reporting source data that our technology does all the analysis on. And then on the RFP auction side of the house, we have over 1,000 law firms participating. So we've had a lot of great traction since launching the products.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's just great growth and a great mission too.
And if it wasn't for companies like our clients and some of the firms that were early adopters because of our clients, like we wouldn't be where we're at right now. So a lot of the credit goes to them. But that really has been one of the main reasons where we're at now.
So are you also tracking diversity within your in-house customers?
So that's on our roadmap. We'll be also now turning the mirror on the corporate law departments as well, because when you're looking at the legal space, law firms are a part of the legal space. They are not the entire legal space. But what we do now as well too is that we actually help corporate law departments also look at the diversity of all of their vendors at an ownership level. So if you think about like most organizations, their procurement function, they have supplier diversity professionals. They're looking at the ownership data. Are you women-owned? Are you minority-owned? Like we want to see what kind of suppliers we're working with. We have a part of our offering in our diversity analytics helps our corporate law department clients understand the diversity of all of their suppliers at the ownership level.
Absolutely. You're in a good state for it too. I remember Illinois having requirements like in the gaming industry around underrepresented folks at the ownership level and at leadership levels. As like licensing conditions or considerations, right? There's
a lot of our corporate law departments, because of their global presence, I mean, they care about this, right? Their stakeholders obviously want to see this data. They care about advancing the mission as well too. So although I'm from Illinois, a lot of our clients are obviously all over the place. So we're starting to see that regardless of what the state's position might be, our clients are pushing the mission forward, no matter what state they're in, which is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome. So one question I didn't ask you, we normally start off every single show this way. What is your pre-flight ritual? Now knowing that you're...
You remember what I said about roller coasters, right? So one of my first and foremost... I always pray.
Prayers and Xanax?
Prayers. I avoid the Xanax, but definitely prayers. But I try to schedule my flights either super early or super late. So there's some level of exhaustion. Or sleepiness that helps kind of become my version of Xanax, if you will. But really, I don't think I have any formal ritual other than saying, I say my prayers. And I say, God, I put my trust in you and in the pilot. Get me where I have to be. But I'm not one who can fall asleep on a flight either. So I really don't have any standard rituals other than like just trying to like stay in the zone and get distracted. As well.
You do a lot of work.
A lot of work. Maybe watching a movie if I can, but usually it's work. Or last night I flew in here in Las Vegas. I was actually watching the Minnesota game. The Minnesota and Denver game. So that kept me very active and engaged for a while as well.
Yeah, that's good. I was watching the Bruins game on the way.
Oh, nice.
Which is good.
Nice. Good.
So when you think about what's next, what are some big things that y'all are thinking about that you can share?
Yeah, well, I think number one, we want to your point, we want to turn the mirror towards in-house counsel as well. because we want them, and they frankly want it as well. They want to understand how do we look when it comes to diversity and how are we getting better over time. So I think it's definitely on our roadmap there as well too. I think one of the other challenges that we're navigating right now is this whole new era of DE&I attacks happening.
Okay.
So obviously the Supreme Court case with the Harvard case, where they basically said no, affirmative action is no longer lawful.
Right.
You can no longer consider race as a criteria in admissions. It's up to this point, it's been reserved to the educational sphere, but a lot of corporate law departments are getting some jitters.
Sure.
And thinking about, will this now infiltrate the workforce, diversity initiatives as well? So that's something very much top of mind for us as well too, as we navigate the waters over the next few months as well.
Well, I think that, it's interesting. And I've had a lot of conversations in a lot of different like subject areas, probably actually not very frequently and specifically around DEI. When you think about role of government, so one of the organizations that I'm a part of is the New England Legal Foundation. Okay. And we are advocates for, and we write like amicus briefs and things like that for free enterprise and limited government oversight when that government oversight is not otherwise explicitly authorized, right? And so, like looking at some of the coolest things that we do is we actually try to we have something called the Equalizer Institute, which helps provide legal services to underrepresented entrepreneurs, which is great because everybody should have access to like free enterprise helps everybody. Everybody should have access to it. The reality is that a lot of people don't. Right? And when you look at governmental programs and the way that like business licensing and stuff, right? Like let's say you want to open a shop somewhere selling whatever, right? Like the hoops that you have to go through to actually get a license is just crazy. And then, you often, I mean, lawyers are, you said it yourself, lawyers are super expensive. Like it's just kind of a crazy thing, but we're always ones that are sort of trying to restrict that governmental overreach. But then you look at it and it's like, okay, where is there governmental overreach and where should our government sort of play a role in, in promoting diversity within the, free enterprise sphere?
Yeah. I mean, well, the government had a role when they created affirmative action and authorized those programs, right? And they did it for a reason. But the reality is, have we seen much progress to this point where it says we no longer need those kind of programs? I say no. Obviously, we're not there yet. Right. But one of the misconceptions around this affirmative action program as well too is that, let me make this very clear, reverse discrimination has always been unlawful.
Exactly.
It's not like something new that affirmative action now has to become unlawful for. It's always been unlawful.
That's right.
But I got to give you credit for the work that you're doing there in the foundation, because I want to add another piece of data for you as well too, is that when you're looking at entrepreneurs, especially those that come from underrepresented backgrounds, the funding doesn't go to them either. Right. And everything is tied to money. Yes. Right. Navigating all these challenges and loopholes you're talking about takes money. Right. To be able to, get SOC 2 certified and get the best security features. Expensive, money. Yes. Right. To get to conferences like this here in Las Vegas and others, expensive. So by not having equal access to funding, you're inherently putting these entrepreneurs at a disadvantage. That's right. So the work you're doing, like, I applaud, because that's helping, compensate for some of the lack of like that equity in the funding process as well. That's right. So great work to you on that, because I think it's really important work.
And that's a big part too, is we're trying to get more and more folks involved from that investment community. Yeah. Right. It's nice because Boston is kind of an investment rich town, relatively speaking. Yep. Right. It's not quite the Valley, but what is. So we're trying to get more and more people involved to help, and it's so far it's been going really well. But it's also been largely funded by a lot of individuals.
Not surprised.
Like mission-driven individuals, and like that's great, but it's also disappointing because you'd love to see more corporate interaction with that. Right.
This was the mentality I had when I told you I was growing up on the south side of Chicago. Yeah. I was like, look, no one is helping us as our communities, right? Right. We're looking to the city to come help us. We're looking to entrepreneurs to come help us. No one's helping us. So what I told myself was like, look, enough looking outside of our community saying, come help us. Yeah. We got to do good for ourselves, right? That's right. It's as unfortunate as that may sound, right? Yeah. But that was the reality. And the reality is, with the situation you're talking about as well too, is that In funding, you could stand up all day long and say, I want to do this for myself, but you need the outside capital.
That's exactly it.
So there needs to be a bridge to that. And I think the work you're doing is going to help continue to carry on that bridge. And hopefully that continues in more spaces beyond Boston as well.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of affiliated with a number of like different legal foundations that are relatively regional, but like there's the Pacific Legal Foundation, which is actually huge.
Right.
But they're also doing stuff like, their corporate contributions are, differently funded, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a ton of like amicus stuff, like Supreme Court level stuff, where it's like some random court case about, some like environmental protection agency like having people on boats or something like that. You know what I mean? It's just like all those weird Supreme Court cases that nobody hears about because they're not in the news. Yeah. Right. So there's a lot of that stuff going on.
But you know what? Commitments cannot be flailing.
That's right.
You got to remain steadfast in your commitments. I'll tell you, after the 2020 whole, George Floyd murder and all the Black Lives Matter movement, there was a lot of energy from corporations, a lot of energy from investors to say, look, we got to do more for equity. Yeah. And then when the economy went south, some of that shifted, right?
Yeah, a lot of it.
Right.
Did.
And if you look at the numbers now when it comes to funding or whatever it might be, they're still very much underfunded, and there hasn't been much improvement, if at all.
Exactly.
Right? So if you're going to commit to something, you got to be committed to it through good times and bad times, right?
Right.
And that's something that I've seen. Like, it's cyclical when it comes to work around diversity.
Yeah.
We care about it a lot. We'll do a lot of work, and then when it doesn't become a priority, we don't care anymore. And then when it does, we do. When we don't, it's like, come on, guys. You got to have that. You got to be committed throughout, right?
That's exactly
it. And let me also be very clear, because I think when we talk about diversity, there's the automatic notion that folks that do not come from underrepresented groups automatically disqualify themselves from the conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not true.
Yeah.
Diversity is for everyone. It's for you. It's for me. It's for everybody in this room. That's what diversity is all about, right? It's about making sure that we create safe spaces, equitable space where everyone has a fair shot. They can be their true selves in a psychologically safe environment, and they can be the best version of themselves. That is diversity. But part of this whole, framing of the story is that diversity is only for select groups.
Right.
And it creates sometimes distances and barriers and oppositions when it does not need to have that happen, because that's not the case.
It's interesting as you think about that, and I think there's some element here of like media, like what's a sensational way to categorize the conversation. Yeah. And when you actually have conversations with people are generally like very, very civil, very, very fair people who are open. Yeah. Like, I mean, granted, I'm sure everybody's met people who are just not like that. Right. Let's just say, right. But by and large, like generally people want to do the right thing. Oh, yeah. And people generally feel that having diverse perspectives and have people from different backgrounds, even just forget about think about it in terms of social circles, think of it like you just want to surround yourself with interesting people. Right. And oftentimes the most interesting people you're going to meet are people with very different backgrounds than you, because you have all sorts of stuff to learn about each other. Absolutely. It's fun. Absolutely. Right. It's perspectives, and it's something I think that's missing from the language. And I'm glad you called that out.
It's a great point you're bringing out. And like when you look at the legal ops space, for example, I think you're seeing it become more and more diverse as well too, right? Yeah. Because you're bringing in people from other backgrounds besides law. Yeah. Whether it's finance, whether it's project management, whether it's, you name it, procurement, they're bringing in such diverse perspectives now that's bringing in more diversity into legal ops as well too. So I'm seeing a lot of progress in the legal ops space, obviously, and I'm hoping that the lawyer side of our space continues to advance that way as well too.
Yeah, I think they will.
Yeah, let's hope so. I mean, we keep looking at the data. That's what we do.
That's right. Let the data drive.
Let the data speak. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome. And switching gears a little bit to some advice for our listeners and career advice. Yeah. So you're also a professor. So what do you teach, and what's one piece of advice that you have that you didn't learn in law school?
Yeah. So let me give you a little story on why I started teaching. When I grew up, I never really had mentors. Right. Obviously, my professors were as close as I had to mentors because I saw them in college and school. But, growing up in my side of town, I never had those people surrounding myself. And I always told myself, how can I give back? How can I find a way to do that? And I only do it not only from the perspective of, helping folks who don't have access to mentors, but also from my Christian background as well too, right? It's my servant leadership mentality of what can I do to inspire the next generation to do better. So I teach courses mainly around like entrepreneurship, negotiations and things along those lines as well too. I mainly teach in the evenings, but it's just a great way for me to be able to bring a lot of that knowledge, but also help to like nurture and shape the next generation of where they want to be and talk to them and show them opportunities that they may never had access to before. So for me, that's really, the interesting part of it. And the next part of your question was what, in terms of advice?
Something that people didn't learn in law school that they need to understand to be successful as an entrepreneur, as an in-house
You know what?
person.
The value of technology, I think, is so immensely important. I'll speak from a business perspective first. Like when in law school, we were there like when they were first talking about e-discovery, right?
Yeah.
When that first started happening, remember, Tim?
Yes,
Like,
I do.
what's this culling and OCR review and all this other stuff?
Exactly.
It was slowly coming
It's a
out.
mess.
But now with technology, like being an attorney nowadays, like you have to know technology, right? You have to understand technology because you're going to be interacting with it. And I think that's a piece that has to be embedded more and more into law school curriculum because it's so important. But then also the people side of it as well too, right? We're focused so much on training the hard skills of law, but not so much the soft skills of what comes with being an attorney, right?
That's right.
Connecting with other attorneys, speaking, communication, empathy, everything that comes into that, I feel like in some cases needs to also have more of a focus in law schools as well.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And you talk a lot on LinkedIn, and you just touched on it on servant leadership. Can you talk more about what that is? And
Yeah. I mean, when you think about servant leadership, at least the way I look at it is that, most organizations will have a leader and the folks that are around them, their employees and the folks that are supporting the organization are there to support the leader and serve the leader to effectuate the vision. My approach when a servant leadership is I am there to serve my employees, to put them into positions to succeed at the personal level, which will help the organization succeed. So what can I do to empower them, to create them to be, again, the best version of themselves? That to me is servant leadership. But more importantly too, it's also leading with heart, right? I mean, you want to have the logic, obviously, you want to think through business decisions, but you also want to lead with heart. And sometimes I'm at fault for this, but they always say like when your heart and your mind are in conflict, go with your mind, right? It's the rational way to go. I go with my heart and I go with my gut. And that usually has been the best compass for me and has led me down the right path.
that's awesome. That's great advice. And you also touched on some soft skills that you think are really important.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for building those soft skills or building trust as a professional?
Trust is so key in any relationship, whether it's with outside counsel, whether it's with customers as a legal technology company with their customers. Trust is critical. And how do you build that trust? To me, it all starts with getting to know each other, right? With I have no other goals or objectives beyond getting to know you as a person. I want you to know me and what I stand for, what my values are. I want to know who you are and what you're about. And at the end of the day, to me, that's what makes you a more effective person. When you really focus on the person you're talking to, the person you're working with, the person you're leading, and really keeping the focus on them, and then they get to know more about you because of how you're keeping your focus on them. That to me is what that's all about.
That's awesome. Well, we end every episode with some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So if you're ready,
Yeah, let's do it.
what is your hot take on diversity in the legal space?
Under attack, but it's not going anywhere. It's only going to get stronger.
Awesome. What is your number one tip for building trust?
Get to know someone at a deep level. Very important.
What is the best leadership advice that you've either given or received?
I would say lead with your heart. Again, I kind of went to this a moment ago, but that's really where you've got to start. People always talk about, look, I have to be a leader. You have to dictate what happens, but lead with your heart and focus on, to me, serving those around you and putting them into positions to succeed, and then inspire them. Let them believe and rally around your mission, because when they see you fighting for them and they see you and communicating your vision so strongly and so well, they're going to rally around you and get your back like nobody else.
So obviously mission-driven organization.
Yeah.
Outside of Justice Bid.
Yeah.
Is a charity or a cause that's close to your heart that we can help amplify?
A lot of the South Side back-to-school programs on the south side of Chicago.
Okay.
So we have some after-school programs, After School Matters and others, because what happens is for a lot of our kids, when they get back on the streets after school, when they're in the streets, there's a lot of risk out there.
Yeah.
So how can we keep them engaged and off the streets and involved in activities that can nurture their mind, shape their mind, and keep them focused on their education and getting to the next step in their stage in their academic careers and beyond.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, we'll make sure to get some links to some organizations
Awesome,
from
man.
you, and
I'll send you some for
we'll
sure.
promote them out. So,
Cool.
Omar, thanks so much for joining
Thanks,
us.
Tim,
It was an
man.
awesome
Love it,
conversation,
man.
as
Appreciate it.
always.
Yeah, no doubt. Good spending time with you.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.